welcome back to It's All Her, the podcast. I'm your host, Jordy Lucas. I'm the founder and editor of It's All Her. I was an actress in a previous life and I'm a mum to a toddler. I've got a lot going on and I have a passion for helping women live simpler, better lives. This week on the site, a GP gives us the lowdown on how you can treat cystic acne at home, and we have advice for budding investors out there with an amazing new app. My guest this week is Emma Freedman. You would have seen her a few years back presenting on the Today Show. You've heard her on the radio for many years, and you now watch her on Fox League reporting on all things sport. She's had an incredible, varied career in the media, which has included covering the recent Olympics in Tokyo, so no big deal there. And she's also been a long-standing ambassador for Lexus. Now, one of the things we cover in this ep is how much easier men have it as media personalities in this country. In my opinion, they get away with a lot more questionable behaviour and definitely have more opportunities to redeem themselves. You only have to tune into SAS Australia right now, where at least 3 men have been accused of having violent, abusive pasts. And then you have the likes of Wayne Carey on our screens, who is still within the media despite being charged with domestic violence and assault convictions. You know, last week I spoke about Nadia Bartel and Georgia Love, and I just wonder if they will be afforded the same opportunities to redeem themselves as these men have. And where I also think this is unfair is that female sports presenters like Emma and Erin Molan get slammed for, a simple slip up of a sports statistic or daring to have an opinion. And yet we have these men with violent histories on our screens almost every week on Australian television, and not many people bat an eyelid. I'd love to hear your opinion about this because it's something that I could go on about, but let's get back to my chat with Emma Freedman. I loved chatting with Emma about her career and why working makes her a better mum, which is something that I can relate to, her experience with covering the Olympics, and her hopes for the Lexus Melbourne Cup this year. Here's my chat with Emma Freedman. Thank you so much for joining us this week on the podcast. I'm so excited to hear all about your career. You have just finished covering the Olympics.
Yeah.
How are you going and how was that experience?
Well, firstly, Jordy, thank you for having me. I'm coming to you from my son's bedroom. Lockdown life. My husband's downstairs in the kitchen working and my daughter is asleep in her room. So I've never done a podcast from next to a cot, so that's something new. The Olympics, yeah, it was a lifelong dream, and it still is, to cover an Olympics when you work in sport. So I was asked by Seven to jump on their coverage. I operate pretty much nowadays as a freelancer, which is, it really suits me with 2 very small children. So yeah, it was an amazing experience. Obviously, I didn't get to go to Tokyo because of everything that's happening in the world at the moment.
Yeah, the old C word.
The old C word. So most of the broadcast, whether it be on 7 or 7 Mate, was done from a studio in Sydney or Melbourne. So that was a huge undertaking for 7 to be able to achieve the quality of broadcast without being in Tokyo. It was massive. Yeah. And honestly, one of the best things I've ever done in my life, even though I was just in a small, I call it the lair. I was in my lair each day, for about 8 hours on air, 7 hours on air. And, so many different sports, so many different stories, so many medals that Australia won. It was an amazing experience, and I hope to get to do another one in the future.
And hopefully actually be there.
Oh, I mean, Paris 2024, wouldn't that be absolute deluxe, considering the most Paris I'm getting at the moment is, getting a cafe latte from my coffee shop every morning. Yeah, graceful.
What does the preparation look like for you as a sports journo for the Olympics? Like, I saw on your Instagram that you were preparing like 10 days out from when the games kicked off.
This is actually a story. So I think I can talk about it now that the Olympics are done, but because of COVID, they ran into huge amounts of trouble with travel. So I actually only got the call up to cover to host an Olympics, to cover an Olympics 12 days from go time. So I we kind of thought it was a possibility a few weeks before that in advance. So I did a huge amount of prep. Like, I was up all hours of the night,
Yeah.
not with my children, doing work. And trying to just get across, every sport, all the major athletes, how sports worked. So whether they, in rowing, this is boring for people who don't really love sport, but you're rowing, you got your initial heats, and then you go to repechage, and then you go to finals, whether it be final A or final B, and different sports, they work in different ways. So I had to get across that. And then 10 days out in a pandemic with no care for the kids. My husband's working from home. My daughter's at that stage was 8 months old. So still in that tricky kind of can't communicate phase. And my little boy's in that yelling at me phase. Because he's 2. It was mental. I hope when I get to do another one, I get 6 months notice to be able to really prepare. But for the amount of time I had in the end, I was pretty happy. I think usually the amount of preparation that people put in, you probably don't see it because it sounds seamless and, you're throwing to different sports and you're talking to athletes like you know exactly what's going on. But let's be honest, unless you're Bruce McAvaney or Hamish, you don't probably haven't got that knowledge that far in advance. You've had to study really, really hard. So it's kind of like doing year 12 exams, the amount of preparation and I'm handwritten notes and whatnot. But it was a really intense month, 5 weeks.
Wow.
And I came out of it and everyone's like, are you tired? I'm like, nah, I feel invigorated. I feel good. I've used my brain again.
Yeah. Mate, I've got 2 kids.
I know. And when you've got 2 kids, and I'm working part-time, but when you've got 2 kids, your brain is likely focused on how much they've eaten that day, how much sleep they've gotten that day. Are they warm enough? Are they meeting those milestones? Is there too much screen time? What if they're not getting the socialization? That's where your brain goes. And then you get into regular, work life. And I'm like, oh, I don't know about you, but do you find I find working and really hard, doing an Olympics, remarkably easier than handling 2 children in lockdown.
Oh, and less stressful.
So much less stressful. Why is that?
I don't know.
Oh, and I came out of it and everyone, my husband's going, geez, are you knackered? Because I was getting up at, 3:34 every morning.
Yeah.
But no, I feel good.
Amazing.
I love this.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's what the Olympics does for you. It's infectious.
It was just, and I think it just gave everyone so much hope watching it. It was just, I feel like it was what we needed to just tune in and watch people achieving their dreams.
Yeah, it was funny because I reckon before the Olympics there was so many people going, oh, this is going to be a disaster. Yeah. No crowds, this is going to be shit. And then people watched it for a couple of days wow, this is exactly what the world needs to be able to feel some unity. And you're right, it's hope. It's hope that if you have a goal and you have a dream, you can achieve it even in the weirdest of circumstances.
So let's take it back to your earlier life and your perhaps goals and aspirations as a young woman. Was getting into the media as a sports journo the end goal for you?
Yes, working in sport was definitely the goal. So I've done a few different things and lived a few different lives, as many of us have. But whether it was being a journo or working in production or working in administration, sport was always it. So from when I was still in school, I bypassed schoolies to do work experience at Channel 7 in the newsroom in the sport division. And from then, even though I was at uni, I still was working in sports media. So I just always wanted to work in sport. And then I worked in sports administration with Racing Victoria for a bit. I just did so many different things to, I guess, find out what I wanted, but also to earn money. You're a casual at that time because you're at uni. So you're having to work 3 or 4 different jobs to figure out what you like, but also to be able to pay your rent. So, sport was always the goal. And now that I'm doing sports hosting and sports journalism and, working in sport pretty much full time. It's now that you don't get time to reflect on it, and you never do because you're worrying about, again, what your kids are eating. But it's good that I've found where I'm at, and it is in sport, which is, it's nice. It makes going to work pretty bloody easy, to be honest.
Amazing. It is such a notoriously competitive industry. What do you think? I mean, obviously, apart from your work ethic and the fact that you obviously had that priority and that goal, what do you think gave you the edge when it sort of came to, I mean, it sounds cliche, but getting your break? What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I think I've still hopefully got so much more to achieve, and there's still so many people that I look up to going, oh gosh, I, aspire to do that one day, or, travel there, or, work on that event. But in terms of, I guess, getting a start, oh God, I don't know. Like, I'd like to think that it's the fact that I don't really give a shit. Like,
Yeah.
I know that sounds really bad, but I really don't care what, like, people think about me. Like, I care what my bosses think, but I'm just wanting to be, oh my God, this sounds so bad, but like, I want to be authentic. Like, this is my voice for a start. Like, some people wanted me to go through voice training, and I did a little bit of it, and I went, oh God, this is just not for me. Like, you don't ask someone to change their eye color. So why someone asking me to change my voice?
Yeah.
So I think there was the fact that maybe I was just pretty persistent in the fact that if I was going to do this, I was going to do it as me, and I'm a bit rough and ready, and I can be polished at times, but I think my voice and the fact that, when I'm on the couch doing even Maddie John's show, I'm leaning and I'm just being me. Like, I think that might be part of it. I mean, the work ethic is really important. Like, for anyone, if you want to get good at something, you've got to work hard at it.
Yeah, definitely.
So I don't know, maybe that's it. That's probably held me back a bit at the same time as well, because I wasn't willing to subscribe to some, I don't know, picture perfect kind of person.
Yeah.
Or like a molded person, or like, let's put this voice on her, and let's like, I don't know. But I just was like, no, I'm just me. Like, I'm little and I'm loud and I've got a raspy voice and a really strong Australian accent. And
I think that's refreshing though.
I think so. I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it's, I don't know. I think some people, it grinds their gears a bit, but I don't know, get over it. Like,
but you're never going to please everyone, are you? Especially when you work in TV and the media, there's always going to be people who have an opinion about you.
They all do.
Yeah.
And you would have experienced that as well. Everyone's experienced it, especially if you work in, our industry, which is heavily criticized. Like, I had a boss once who I was starting to do reading some sport, and I got told I looked too small, like sitting on.
What?
Yeah. I was too small. Like, I looked like not like a child, but I didn't look big enough. I'm like, well, what the fuck do you want me to do about that? I can't really change it. Like, so that was, that's interesting when things like that happen. But I think, you just got to laugh. You can't get too precious about it. You just got to laugh it off. And if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. But at the moment, things are going good, which is great.
Yeah, totally. It feels to me that women covering sport are subject to more criticism than men if you say get a statistic wrong or get a name wrong. Do you feel that pressure to perhaps, be on top of it even more so than perhaps some of your male counterparts, just to avoid that?
I think that's fair. I think that's a fair judgment, and it probably is the way it is at the moment. And I think it probably will continue like that, because especially if you're covering male dominated sports or male leagues, whether that be the AFL, the NRL, you are under more pressure to get things right. But I think that's probably, I don't know, I think it's probably fair in a way, because if you haven't played the game, I mean, I know that doesn't matter. But of course, I haven't played any of these games, but if you're going to report on something, you've got to get it right, especially if you don't have that inside knowledge of whether it be how this backline is going to work or how this pack's going to work in the end. Like, you've got to have, if your arsenal is statistics and carrying the conversation and driving it, you got to get it right. And I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Like, I've gotten things wrong, absolutely, and I think a lot of people have, and I dwell on them, Jordy. Like, if I get home from work and I know I've gotten something wrong, whether it be just a slip of the tongue or just getting a little bit confused, or God forbid I haven't done my research properly, it will sit with me for days. Yeah. I'll replay it over and over and over again. So in sports, statistics are pretty important.
Totally.
They tell a story. So
Yeah.
I think everyone should get them right. Having said that, I've watched, male hosts. Not that I think there should be a great divide between male and female,
Yeah.
in sports journalism. And I've gone, oh, that was wrong. Oh, that wasn't. That's not right.
Yeah.
So that's happened a few times as well, watching other people. But we're all human and we all make mistakes. So just try not to have them too often.
Yeah. It just feels to me, and correct me if you think that I'm wrong, but in the world of sport and sports coverage, it feels like if a man stuffs up, even in his personal life, he's like a larrikin, or he's a bad boy. Whereas if the woman stuffs up in her personal life, she's a bitch, she's a slut, it just seems like there's such a different, I don't know, that we're criticized differently to me.
I agree with that. And I don't know why. Like, obviously we've got gender pay gap issues, and the balance of women on sports coverage is obviously improving. Especially where I work at Fox League, there's 5 or 6 women who are, host coverage or doing sideline, and the same in Fox Footy. But yeah, I tend to agree, even in the world of sport. So for example, last week, Jamie Carr, who is the best jockey in the country at the moment, probably, in my opinion. And you would have seen the Airbnb 5, they were calling them. And it was Jamie's face on the front of the paper, and it was Jamie in the first par. And maybe that's because she's the best of them. But I also think it's because she's a woman.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we look at the other people, the other jockeys who were there, and they all did the wrong thing. And there's a part of me that feels a little bit sorry for them. Obviously, they did the wrong, like we can't be breaking COVID rules. But yeah, her reputation, I think, in my opinion, it will be harder for her to come back from this publicly than it will be the blokes.
Totally.
And that's not fair.
No.
But
yeah,
I don't know how you try and change it. You try and contribute to the conversation to change it. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Maybe that's what sells at the end of the day. Maybe it's part of its flattery. Like Jamie Carr on the front of a paper is going to sell more papers than, Ben Mellum on the front of the paper, who's one of the other jockeys involved. Like, I don't know. But yeah, I feel for her, she's going to have a tougher time coming back from this than everyone else. So
yeah, that seems to be the way of it, unfortunately.
Yeah, and you're right. Even with if you slip up on air or if you say something wrong, you get more public. Like I've had moments where I'm going, I don't think that warranted that much coverage.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I remember, it was probably 5 years ago when I was talking about Richmond winning their first premiership, and there was a photo that was doing the rounds of a girl with a premiership medal around her neck, and she had her tits out.
I was just reading this article.
Yeah.
I was doing some research on you.
Yeah, but if what I said, if a bloke had said that, I don't know if it would have garnered that much.
No.
Attention.
No.
And yeah, I think I don't know. You're right. And by the way, I never backtrack on what I said. Like I believe in what I said.
And I love that you stuck to your guns on that, because I feel like there's nothing worse than a public apology when
you don't believe it
for the sake of just apologizing and appeasing people.
Yeah. I mean, in the world of, this digital age, and I've said this before, there's right and wrong, but there's also grey. There's this, in the digital world, there's grey, whether you like it or not, there is. And yeah, I just think to be able to, live a life that you're, where you're protected, you have to protect yourself in a way. And obviously I'm not talking about, complete sexual assault, like all those, that's different.
Yeah.
But in terms of having a photo like that taken of you where there's consent, you've got to kind of think that it might go somewhere.
Yeah.
Especially when you're dealing with, and I don't think I'm speaking out of school here, drunk footballers.
Yeah. And what you said as well is that you can't trust people. You can't trust people.
You can't, especially if, they've just won a premiership. They've gone absolutely berserk for a couple of weeks, absolutely berserk. No one's thinking straight. And that's not an excuse either. But I think I would be trying to teach my children that there's an element of you've got to protect yourself and you can't trust everyone that you meet. So do the best that you can.
Yeah.
Things might happen and yes, it might be wrong, but yeah, I'd like to think that, the youth of today have that strength within themselves to go, yeah, I'm going to protect myself. I'm not going to.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know. It's this some element of taking responsibility for your life in a way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You've had such a varied career. Obviously, you said before you've worn many hats and you've covered the Olympics recently. What have some of the other highlights been for you?
Oh, goodness. Yeah, I've done a lot of things. And sometimes I would have liked to have stuck at things a little bit more, but that hasn't happened. So I loved doing the weather for, 5 or 6 years on Today's Show. Like, that was unreal. I had the best time. We traveled the world. We made some great TV and we worked with a great crew. And, a lot of the crew I'm still mates with today. We don't catch up in person at the moment, which is unfortunate, but still text and, stuff like that. And I loved doing Dancing with the Stars. That was like one of the best things of my life. I got to meet. Yeah, again, I still keep in contact with a lot of the people that I worked on that show with. Breakfast Radio was a real ride, and I'd like to do that again at some point. Yeah, I've done a lot more, but I just can't remember sometimes. I've had a lot of great highlights, and I hope there's more. I hope there's more to come. Yeah, I hope it's not done and dusted at the age of 33. So the Olympics, obviously. But yeah, it's amazing to think what you can do in a short period of time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm 33.
Yeah.
That's not that old, is it?
No. And you've done all that. So
I've done a bit.
How did motherhood change the way you sort of view yourself as a career woman, or did it alter how your level of motivation or your drive?
It's tough, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think when you become a mum, you change as a person, whether you like it or not, whether you're trying or not. And for the first couple of years, I was pretty happy, like just doing bits and pieces, and my main focus was my children. But I think in the last couple of months, actually, there's been a real change in my mind, probably because of the Olympics going, I actually need to work as well as being a mum. Like, not every mum's like that, but I actually need that. That's when I'm the best version of myself for my kids, for my husband, for my family, for my friends, is when I'm not 7 days a week mumming.
Yeah.
Like, I need a couple of days a week of work to be able to, I guess, express myself and to use my brain and to just be in a different environment. So that's been a bit of a revelation for me in the last couple of months. I think I've taken it, and maybe COVID has something to do with that. Do you know what I mean? Because we've been all locked inside for so long that when I do get to go to work, it's like, oh my God, I get to go to work. This is so exciting. So excited. So maybe that's part of it, but motivation and drive for me hasn't really changed. Like, I still have ambitions to, still continue to grow and develop as a host and as a journo, and still work on so many different projects. Like, I still have the drive to do it, but I want to do it in a family friendly way that I can that I don't miss out on. And I've been lucky, I haven't missed out on much with my kids at the moment. And maybe the universe, like the way everything's timed out, and that I stopped working full time just before a few months before Will was born.
Yeah.
And I actually wanted to continue working full time, but it didn't work out like that. And that's, maybe I look back and go, that's a blessing, because I've had 2.5 years with him, with me working part time, and it means I didn't miss his first steps, and I didn't miss him saying mom and stuff like that. So yeah, I what about you? Do you need to? I need to work.
Yeah, I do. I just have found, so my girl's 2, and I still have the motivation and the drive. I just can't concentrate. I don't have the brain capacity that I used to. I used to be able to sit down and work for a full day. I can't do that now. My brain just is not wired the same as it used to be.
Yeah.
And so that's something I've struggled with, but I totally agree that when you go away and you work for a couple of hours and you do something for yourself, you come back a better version of yourself for your children.
Yeah. And it doesn't even have to be like when I've had moments of stress with my kids, say like my little girl, she's got like she still has the worst reflux. Like it's awful because even when she's drinking out of a cup, like a sippy cup, she, it's this awful thing. And, that can be seriously frustrating as well. Like you feel so sorry for her, but there's times where you're like, oh my God, when are we going to get over this? Like, when does this get a little bit? And it does.
Yeah.
But and people go, oh, you need to go and, I don't know. I've had people go, you need to go and have a massage. And, I go, no, I just actually need to go and use my brain and just not focus on that. I need to go and work. Yeah. So people have different outlets. Some people might be that they need to, go and do some self-care in that respect. For me, it's work, but it's also exercise. Like nowadays I'm in the habit of 5 days a week getting up at like silly o'clock, 5:15 to go for a run.
Wow.
Because then I feel like, okay, I'm strong and I can do the day and I can get through it and I've done something for me. So it's like people have different, I've had people say, and you might, same thing, go and spend a night in a hotel. That's not going to fix, for me, that's not going to fix it. Like, that might fix for other people, but it's not going to fix it for me.
Yeah.
If I just have the balance of my day right or the balance of my week right, that's when I feel in control is not the right word because you're never in control.
No, you're never in control.
But you've got some element of, okay, I've got this. All right, we're good.
But I just feel like if you're doing something for yourself, even just at the start of the day, everything else seems a bit more manageable.
Yes. Why is that?
I don't know. But I just feel like I'm more tolerant as well.
Yes. Maybe it's because you've, like with exercise, for example, like you get up and those endorphins flow and I've achieved something, like tick, I've done it. Yeah. And then, you're right. If my little boy's being relentless about like yesterday, like, and you've got a 2-year-old, like yesterday, the tantrum was about, and there's one every day, there's one every day. Yesterday's was about a packet of, chicken stock cubes. Yeah, I know. Like the cubes that you put in water to make chicken stock.
Yeah.
And he kept unwrapping them. Can you please stop? Can you just, let's go do this. You're doing diversion tactics and let's go try something new. Yeah. And and I was more tolerant. Whereas I reckon if I hadn't gone for a run, I might have just gone, well, you eat them, mate. See what happens.
Yeah. See how much you want them then.
Yeah. See how sick you get then, hey? If you want to eat those chicken stock cubes, go for it. Oh, my God.
They're always drawn to the most dangerous or inconvenient
they're just so weird
thing in the room.
They're so weird. Like yesterday, a few days ago, my little boy carried around a gold key that we don't know where it came from. It's like a random key now. Carried around the whole day. It would not I took it to bed with him at nap time. What's wrong with you? Oh, anyways, I love him.
They're funny. They're interesting creatures, aren't they?
Oh, they're so interesting. They're all over the place, aren't they?
So let's talk about future. Your dad was a 5-time Melbourne Cup champ. Is that right?
Yeah. So he trained 5 Melbourne Cup winners. He's still training. He trains up on the Gold Coast actually at the moment.
Yeah. Wow.
Nice for him in the dream state of Queensland at the moment.
I know. So racing's obviously very much in your blood. Do you have an inside scoop as to what's going to happen with the car?
Oh my gosh. So I'm really lucky that for the last, 5 or 6, 7 years, I've worked with Lexus, who are the principal sponsor of the Melbourne Cup. So nowadays it's the Lexus Melbourne Cup, which is really exciting. And they're a terrific brand to work for. So I do get some element of, insight into as to what's going on. But, with these lockdowns at the moment, there's still so much government planning to still go on with these restrictions, particularly in Melbourne. Yeah. So I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen, but I know that same with last year, Lexus will be working in a way to be able to, bring Australians together for the race that stops the nation. And that's what it's all about. So last year I was on the couch watching it, with a nice little picnic from Neil Perry, who's also working with Lexus. So that was absolutely delightful. I had a 2-week-old at the time, or 3-week-old. But that
at least you could have your cheese, your soft cheese.
Did you miss cheese? Oh, God, I miss cheese.
Yeah. One of the first things my parents brought me in a ham sandwich to the
Yeah,
hospital.
right.
And
Yeah.
then my fiance, did a cheese platter when we got home.
Yeah, I was bottle of champagne. And I've got to be honest, with my second one, I did eat some soft cheese during the pregnancy because I was just like, I was just over it. So I did do that. I've got to admit, I did
Feel
eat the
like
soft
subsequent pregnancies, you would probably be a little less.
With subsequent
Like-
children, you're like that. Like, I'm like, eat the dirt. Like, go for it. Can you tell, like, you've probably gotten a really good insight into my parenting. Like, oh, what's the worst that can happen? Oh, dear.
Well, I feel like everyone, and I'm so guilty of this, wrapping your kid in cotton wool. I feel like it's really refreshing to just listen and hear other mums that are a bit more laid back.
I'm so like, what are your mum triggers then? Like, do you have so for me, it's sleep. Mine's like my children's sleep is my
Your thing.
my thing. So like the windows are blacked out, like white noise, like I'm a real sleep Nazi.
Yeah.
But then when it comes to like we don't have gates in our house. We don't have anything taped up. Like when it comes to playing, I'm like, you'll be right.
Yeah, see, I'm opposite. I'm probably more laid back with the sleep.
Yeah.
But yeah, gates, baby, like everything's baby proofed.
Yes, we got nothing. We got nothing. Like sometimes I find Will with like the Windex and I'm like, maybe we don't need to use it. Like he's trying to like eat it. So I just sound like a seriously like crazy parent. But yes, I'm the sleep Nazi. And then everything else I'm like, just go for your life, mate. Like I know. Maybe that's how I
wish I had a
grew
bit
up,
more of that in me though.
But everyone's got their mum triggers. Like I speak to mum friends about this and like some are like, my kid doesn't eat enough broccoli. And that's fine. That's your mum trigger. Like I reckon, or some people's are like, my kid's always late with their milestones or like, things like that. Everyone's got something that they get fixated on and
worried about.
Yours is safety, which is probably the best one to be worried about. Like mine's sleep, which I mean, they're going to do. So like I crack the shits if my little one, like they have short naps or like their naps is not as long as I want them to be. I'm like, I think I can control it. Like, yeah, you can control it to a bit, but anyways, that's completely off topic. Anyways, back. Can you see
you can come back and talk about sleep training in a few weeks.
Yeah. You done it?
No, I can't do it.
I've done a bit of it, but anyways, back to Melbourne Cup Carnival. Yeah. I'm thinking probably participants on track, yes, but crowds, I feel it's not going to be likely. But as I mentioned, particularly with Lexus, they're going to be working with a number of, collaborators and, the ambassadors to be able to ensure that everyone across Australia can celebrate. We need something to celebrate this year. We need something. So they'll be working on they're working on things to make sure that we can all enjoy it.
Yeah. And I feel like particularly Victoria needs something.
Yeah.
Who had it really bad. We've lost the grand final. Record. I know. Yeah. It's been very tough. And I think, adults we're pushed to our limits, but kids who aren't, don't necessarily have the emotional maturity or capacity to fully grasp why we're doing it, it would be so hard. And I've said so many times, I'm so glad Evie, my daughter, is too young to comprehend any of this.
Yeah, 100%. And people say to you, like, if you go grabbing a takeaway coffee, oh God, I feel for you with two young ones. And I'm like, we're actually all right. Like, we're actually okay because day to day, not too much changes. Like, I'd love more grandparents and aunties and uncles and fun things like that. But it's just been a real stripped down version of what childhood can be. I really feel for the kids in school and the older ones as well. Like I've got my cousins are 19. They finished school last year. I can't, like when I was 19, I was out at nightclubs and getting real drunk and doing really dumb things. And they can't do that.
Yeah.
That feels like a robbing for me. Like,
they're missing out on the best years of their life.
Like, remember those hangovers where you'd get out of bed at like 3? Like,
and order a pizza or something.
Like, they can do that with their parents if they really want to. I don't know. And kids who are in year 12 and, even kids who are in year 1 and 2, like that's parents who have dealt with that you've done an amazing job and you might think it's never going to end. It will end, but
Yeah.
With us with toddlers, like I'm still washing bums and doing.
Oh yeah. Oh, she's happy just to go out in the backyard. Like she doesn't know any different.
Yeah, I know. Like we'll go for walks each day, and we can, as you said, we can go to playgrounds and stuff like that. Like yesterday, my little boy's got this thing at the moment where if we're near water, so we went to there's a little park near a beach, and anyways, he found the sand and he got nude, and he literally chased a seagull naked on this beach for, I'm not joking you, 20 minutes. And I just sat there and I went, all right, see what? There's people laughing. I was like, well, he's having fun.
Yeah.
I'm not robbing him of the fun.
And I want my daughter to be uninhibited for as long as possible.
100%.
They're going to have the rest of their lives to wear worry. Clothes. Yeah, totally.
Be naked. Enjoy it. Like the sand last night in the bath, though.
I'm sure it was in places that one should not have sand.
I'm waiting for, my little boy's toilet trained, but and he's at kindy today, actually. He's allowed to go to daycare for 2 days.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing here one of his toilet trips today is going to be pretty full of sand. Good luck to them. I don't have to deal with that.
Oh,
anyways,
my God.
Yeah, I'm all about that as well. Just keeping kids. There's kids.
Yeah.
They're kids.
Totally. Yeah. So at It's All Her, we're all about making life simpler and better for women.
Yeah.
How do you keep your life simpler and better?
Oh, my God. That's a great slogan, Jordy.
Oh, thanks.
Simpler and better. Simpler is, I think, actually, if we look back on COVID, it might be a help. It might have helped us in a way for simplifying our lives, as nasty as it's been. But I think with particularly kids, they don't need much.
Yeah.
They don't need to go to theme parks. They don't need, little kids I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They don't need I don't know. They don't need much. They just need to have fun and to be loved and to learn in their own little way.
Yeah.
So I think I'm naturally like that anyway. So in terms of my life though, like it's pretty simple at the moment as well. Like I don't know, Mum, I don't think about my life as complicated. I never have. I'm just really simple at the core. But
yeah.
I like the things that I love, and I'm really passionate about them. And the people that I love, again, I'm really passionate about them.
Yeah.
So good people. One of the things I live by, I'm sure if simpler and better isn't your motto, you should live by it. But mine is, work hard, be nice, have fun.
Yeah. Oh, be nice. So important.
Be nice.
Yeah.
Just be nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I can be a little bit of a bitch when I'm doing things like this, and or being gossipy and whatever. But being nice at the core of it's pretty. Yeah, knowing all my local people by name, having a chat on the street, just being nice. So
yeah.
What was the other one? Better.
Better, yeah.
Wine.
I think so, and cheese, soft cheese.
Like it's just things though, right? Like wine, food, exercise, catching up with friends when you can. I don't know. I just live my head's pretty simple maybe. Like there's a lot of like ideas going on in here. I think what you can, something that I've done in the past that I haven't meant to, get caught up in people's commentary or what people think and just go, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. That makes life harder.
Anyway.
Yeah. Simpler and better. That's a nice thing. Maybe I should add that on the back of of the other one. Yeah, simpler and better. Just be simple and better.
Yeah.
That's good. God, I sound weird. Oh.
Emma, thank you so much for coming on this week. I've had so much fun chatting with you. It's been amazing to connect with you. Thank you so much. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we see you down here for the Cup Carnival with Lexus, hopefully.
We'd love to do that. But Jordy, thank you so much for having me and congratulations on what you're putting together. I know as a mum, it's hard to be able to even create something. So for you, you're critical of your own brain power. You've created a podcast with a 2-year-old. So that's something to be very happy with. Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of It's All Her. If you have loved this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. Share it with a friend, and we'll be back in your ears next week.